Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
One of the most frequent questions I ask of a married couple during our first meeting together is this: what will either of you do when, not if, when the other spouse passes away? The question is definitely a showstopper and one that most spouses have never truly considered, or at least not thought about long enough to put a plan in place to address this inevitable event, one of them passing away before the other. Which then leads to the next question: if there was a way to make sure that the remaining spouse knew exactly where all the investments were located, and just as importantly, had a written game plan in place so that the surviving spouse could make sure to make good financial decisions, is this something you would want to put in place? And without hesitation, the answer from one or both spouses is a resounding, well, of course, which leads to their next question: so how do we do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, welcome, folks, to the WorryFree Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today I will share with you the 4 keys to making sure that your spouse will be able to remain worry-free in retirement when you're no longer in the picture. But first, speaking of picture, let me introduce 2 folks who each week picture this show and help produce it: America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, and Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, let's say you and your spouse have been doing life together, maybe even for decades. Maybe now you're even retired and been retired for years, when all of a sudden one spouse passes away. And now that you're retired, the question comes up right now: who will the surviving spouse turn to for financial assistance and managing this money for the rest of their life? Are there any guarantees in place of not running out of money? Are the investments safe enough to withstand a stock or bond market correction, or are they way too risky? And finally, does your advisor, assuming you have one, have a plan in place that will help you know how much you can spend at the least amount of taxes and fees? Well, sadly, over the many years I've met in person with thousands of couples, most do not have a plan nor a trusted advisor who is equipped to deal with all of the changes that will occur once you lose a partner. But never fear, because today I'll show you how to put a plan in place that will work in your best interest for both now and in the future should you lose your spouse. I'm Tony Walker. You stay tuned. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back. With the uncertainty of the stock market, our nation's debt spiraling out of control, and inflation running rampant, now may be the best time to consider moving your 401k to safer territory. My name is Tony Walker, and for over 38 years I've made it my life's mission to help savers worry less about money, and I want to help you too. To speak with me at no cost or obligation, why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or simply call the toll-free number on your screen. Our Tony in the Trenches comes to us from Mitch in Lebanon, Kentucky, who asked, Tony, I was wondering, with the stock market down as much as 30% in 2022 and your firm offering investments with Charles Schwab, how did your 3 strategies hold up in 2022 as compared to the stock market? Well, that's a good question, Mitch, and I think what we'll do is go to my favorite nephew, Wes Walker, and he's going to give us a rundown of how things shaped up for us at Tony Walker Financial with our 3 different strategies at Charles Schwab.
Hey, good morning, Tony. Yeah, so to talk through each of our 3 strategies and just their performance in the calendar year 2022, I like to start most of these conversations, particularly with clients, just first noting that anything that they have in annuity contracts is not subject to these rates of return. So, if you owned a fixed indexed or a fixed annuity during this time, you didn't lose any money. This only applies to the portion of money that we would put with Charles Schwab. So again, doesn't include annuity returns. And then another caveat to this is that returns can differ based on when people enter and exit the market, if they change strategies, or if they just have different timings. So keep those things in mind when we go over these returns, but just as a general overview. So in all three strategies, back-tested rates of returns and actual client accounts, tried to pull real client accounts for these numbers. The conservative strategies, typical loss was around 9%. The moderate's typical loss was around 10%, and then the growth's typical loss was around 11%. So oddly enough, kind of fell right in line there, a percentage point difference between the three strategies. And some of the losses you think, well, the conservative ought to do a lot better than the growth. That just kind of added to the tumultuousness of the market. But again, the S&P 500 was down almost 18.5% in 2022, along with the aggregate bond index down somewhere near around the same level. So with our three strategies, we were under those two benchmarks.
All right, so let's talk about the four major issues I see when a spouse passes away in terms of the negative impacts that might occur in the finances upon the first death. First, in almost all cases, listen, there's going to be a decrease in income when a spouse dies. And it can be for various reasons. I see it all the time. Spouses who come into me who are now widowed, and they'll say something like this: Tony, before my spouse died, we had $5,000 a month coming in from various investments and income sources, but now it's like $3,000 a month. The reason is it could be the loss of a pension income, the loss of Social Security, maybe the loss of some part-time work that the other spouse was performing, or, as we'll find out in a minute, increased income taxes as a result of the loss of a spouse. I know this doesn't make sense, folks. I didn't write the laws, but this is how it works. All right, number two, another thing that comes up a lot is the issue of housing. This could be the cost of housing. And again, this usually occurs when the spouse dies. For instance, prior to the death of a husband, maybe the couple lived on 10 acres and the hubby loved mowing the grass every other day or whatever. Well, he passes away and the little missus ain't going to ride a zero-turn lawnmower every other day mowing 10 acres. Or how about this? Many people have large garages with many cars, especially the husband. They may have a wood shop. We've got a client that works on clocks all the time. Again, when that spouse dies, there's a good possibility that that spouse that remains may want to downsize, but then only to discover that the little 1,800 square foot bungalow that she's got her eyes on is running somewhere over $300,000.
No, really?
Number three problem is the taxation of your overall income, and it possibly the taxes going up when you go from filing jointly to single. Now, to have a detailed look of how this might play out, I want to go right now to our certified tax specialist, Leanne Tinsley, in our Bowling Green office to share with us exactly how this might play out. Okay, so let's go through the first scenario. You've got the married couple. What's going on with their income now? They're both still alive.
Yes, so they're filing married and jointly now. They're showing about $21,000 in pension and IRA income. Their Social Security is coming in at $28,000, and we only have $1,500 of that is taxable right now. So when you add that standard deduction in for two people, you can see that no taxes are owed on this income at this time.
Wow, that's awesome. But then one spouse dies. Let's go to the next scenario. What happens next?
Well, now we've crossed over to that filing single status. And although their pension and IRA distributions hasn't changed, they have lost some Social Security income. That's down to about $18,000. And now we've got $2,500 of that Social Security that is now being taxed. And in addition, you'll see the big hit. They've lost that double standard deduction. Now it's only $12,950. And so we have a taxable income of just over $10,000. So now they're paying a tax on that of just over $1,000.
Goodness. Good thing you and I aren't responsible for writing those tax laws. All right, number four, the other problem, no written game plan in place and possibility of the surviving spouse being left to either go it alone or possibly worse, and hopefully this doesn't happen a lot, But what I've witnessed is many times the widows or widowers are left to deal with a financial advisor who they feel may not be working in their best interest, or worse yet, the advisor makes them feel like complete idiots since they don't understand anything about the investments. Which is why we have worked so hard over the years to create our proprietary game plan. Not just for the two of you to follow in retirement, but just as importantly, so that the surviving spouse can have something to follow when one spouse passes away. And best of all, you have the confidence that a full-service, independent retirement planning firm, Tony Walker Financial, is at the helm with a proven track record of working in the best interest of our clients. So if that's you, whether you are single or still married, but do not have a written game plan from a trusted retirement specialist, we need to talk. And we can do so at no cost or obligation. To get the conversation started, why don't you do this right now? It's called the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And to take advantage of this opportunity to talk to me, the owner of the company, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that Let's Get Started, or if you like, you can call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, we've got an interesting case study coming up of exactly what someone's going to do when a spouse dies, how we at Tony Walker Financial are going to help them sleep better at night knowing that their situation is well under control. I'm Tony Walker. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. So you've worked 30 or 40 years slaving away at work so you can save away money into your 401k, and now you arrive at the biggest financial decision you're ever going to make, where to invest your 401k plan. Think about it. For all these years, you've had a steady paycheck, compliments from your employer for all of your hard work that you dedicated to them. But now, all of a sudden, you've got to figure out how to replace that paycheck with the money you've been saving. No wonder you're worried about what to do and who to trust with that money, which is why we at Tony Walker Financial are providing a brand new free service called the 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And here's how simple it is to learn more about our services and our 401k rollover process. First, just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Once there, click on the Let's Get Started button. You'll be taken to a page. Confidentially, you can fill out your information on the screen and then click below the best way for us to speak together. It could either be myself or one of our other trained fiduciaries. It's that easy. So what are you waiting for? Before you make a rash decision and blindly turn your money over to a complete stranger to invest, consider a name and a firm you can trust, Tony Walker Financial. And, oh, by the way, if you like, you can give us a call to speak to us at any time by phone by simply calling the toll-free number on your screen. I'll look forward to speaking with you soon. With the uncertainty of the stock market, now may be the best time to consider moving your 401k to safer territory. To talk to me at no cost or obligation, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. In keeping with our theme of what happens when one spouse dies, our next Tony in the Trenches is a dandy. Let's take a look at this. It comes from Rick in Radcliffe, Kentucky, who says, Tony, my mom is 75. 3 years ago, she lost her husband, my dad. Dad was the breadwinner and handled all the money. My mom is developing dementia and needs help making financial decisions, but me and my siblings are in disagreement over where to suggest she invest her money. She has some annuities, and we were thinking of cashing those in and buying CDs. What are your thoughts on the next steps? Well, Rick, quite frankly, this is something I'm seeing more and more. Elderly parents, one now widowed, and not knowing what to do with this money and who to trust, and of course, sometimes in failing health. First, be very careful surrendering those annuities for many reasons, but one is the tax hit you might take or the surrender penalties you might incur. Second, whoever you consult with, I would suggest you, your mom, and any interested siblings meet together with that advisor and make sure that advisor has experience in such matters as keeping taxes down, keeping the risk down, and how to distribute this money properly while everyone is on the same page. In fact, I've done these types of meetings numerous times, and I would be happy to be a part of that process. If you'd like me to get involved in a situation similar to this, please feel free to go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the Let's Get Started or give us a call, and be sure that you let them know that I would like to meet with them for a family type meeting, and we'll be happy to do that. Okay, before we get back to what happens when you lose a spouse, our Live Well, Die Broke moment came recently when this nice couple came into our lobby at Shelbyville Road in Louisville, Kentucky, and took a picture of themselves with the infamous Tony Walker Financial cardboard cutout. That's right, of yours truly. You see, a few years ago, much to the dismay of my staff, I ordered several thousand of these cardboard cutouts and hand-delivered them to my clients. With only one left of this cardboard cutout, I was saddened recently that it had mysteriously disappeared. But as luck would have it, and searching for a broom one day in our office, there it was in the broom closet. Not sure how it got there. Anyway, proudly announcing to our office manager, Gina, who loves this thing, that I was putting it back in the lobby. Here we go. So the next time you're in the lobby at our Shelbyville Road location, be sure to get a picture of it, and if you like, we'll even have Gina take the picture for you. I'm sure she'll love doing that. Right, Gina?
Whatever.
All right, back to more serious stuff here. We got a case study, and this involves a husband and wife, age 68 and 67, obviously still living. See this kind of stuff all the time. Let's kind of go through a few parameters of this. First of all, the husband's Social Security is $3,000 a month, with the wife drawing one half of that. We also have a pension of $2,500 a month coming in. Again, if he dies, there's a 50% survivor option, meaning she will get $1,250, not $2,500 a month. They also have something called a home equity line of credit for $40,000. But the good news is, with all of this is, they have plenty of cash flow. They don't need extra money, and then they got this $400,000 IRA sitting out there with a broker who, unfortunately, both of them feel like is way too much risk, and they've had some losses in the last year. The good news in this case is that we do have that $400,000 to work with, and now I'm going to go over to the whiteboard and show you two options that they would have should they turn that 401k or IRA over to Tony Walker Financial. Okay. So we have the $400,000 IRA, and these folks are going to need income when, not if, when one of them passes away. So here are two options they might want to consider. Again, don't rush out and do this. If you have a similar situation like this, please contact us and let me sit down and go over this in person. Okay, option one thing they could do is take some of that money and purchase an annuity, preferably one that provides mailbox money. So why would you do this? Well, let's think about this. Let's imagine we took, it doesn't matter, we're just pulling numbers out of the air for now, but let's say we put $250,000 of this in a mailbox money type annuity. Now, we're not going to draw the income yet. We'll work on the minimum distributions at 73, and we'll take all the money out from our Schwab. Basically, this is what we call the split IRA. In fact, Aaron, let's put this up full screen. So when we do the split IRA concept, in many cases, we're letting that mailbox money account sit out there and wait to be appropriated and infused into the income when it's needed. In this case, what we're going to do is hold off using it just in case that one spouse dies, so that we can try as best we can to fill the gap. So what's going to happen, let's say the death occurs, in 7 years or something, okay? Loses, the Social Security goes down and the pension goes down. And then that's when, depending on their age, depending on the amount of money, they're different for different people, we can run you these numbers, that's when we'll start the mailbox money. So now what happens is that other spouse is comforted by the fact of knowing that if either of them passes away, it can be used for either spouse, we'll have that guaranteed lifetime income that only annuities can provide. Folks, this is why Wall Street hates these products. These are one-time commissionable products. We don't make recurring fees on these, and they are the only type of product that can guarantee you'll never run out of money. So the next time you hear somebody dogging annuities, you got to understand these people are not working for savers. These are investors and speculators. They have no clue what a saver's worried about, and that's why we work with savers at Tony Walker Financial. Okay, we got another option here. The other option is you might say, well, I don't want to purchase an annuity, Tony, and we're in good health, And I don't mind spending some money on what? That's right, one of the most tried and true policies known to man. And what I love about life insurance is it provides tax-free, cold, hard cash. So in this example, what we do, we siphon off a little bit of that money. Maybe we have everything with Charles Schwab, maybe we don't. We control all this money, keep your taxes down, right? Because you don't need a lot of income right now. We purchase life insurance so that when the spouse passes away, we have this infusion, large amount of tax-free life insurance that we can then manage to replace the assets that the other surviving spouse is going to lose. So folks, I don't know about you, but you have so many options available. The problem is most of you don't think this is ever going to happen. You procrastinate. Maybe the advisor says don't worry about it because they don't know what the heck they're doing when it comes to planning for that surviving spouse. Why don't you do this right now? Take control of your money and your future. Contact us right now at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that Let's Get Started button. And what we like to do is start off with what we call the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call where I'll ask you a few questions. And then if it warrants, we will be happy to meet with you at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. Do it now, or you can even just call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, what does the Bible have to say about marriage and the possibility of one of us passing at any time? I've got some of the best news the Bible has ever shared on the idea of marriage. Got to get me a cup of coffee, though. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today.
Did you know that you can watch the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money anytime you want? The show's called The WorryFree Retirement. It's hosted by Tony Walker, and it's available on YouTube. All you got to do is go to youtube.com and right there in the search bar, type in Tony Walker Financial, and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Click on that and you're going to find all types of video content. Again, that's youtube.com, Tony Walker Financial.
One of me and Susan's favorite movies is The Notebook, a film featuring two lovebirds who meet in their teens, fall in love, ultimately get married, and then live happily ever after into old age, with the movie ending in a dramatic fashion for both, spoiler alert folks coming up, both peacefully passing away together in a comfortable bed and a nursing home. The reason we both enjoyed The Notebook so much is that the characters portrayed in it reminded me and Susan of ourselves. Meeting in high school, that's Susan, by the way, standing beside my beloved 62 Volkswagen Beetle, we, like the actors played in this movie, fought like cats and dogs for 7 years prior to finally tying the knot in 1983, and boy, am I glad we were able to hang in there. And now that we are getting ready to celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary and thinking of how the movie The Notebook ends, we often wonder aloud what it will be like when one of us passes away, which we both acknowledge at some point is going to happen. Whether any of us like to talk about it or not, which more than likely won't duplicate the manner in which Noah and Allie passed away together in The Notebook, first, to engage in such a morbid discussion as to what the other will do when one dies, we both, Susan and I, had to admit that it's going to happen. Secondly, we then made the matter urgent and put our plans in writing and our finances in order, which we have done. And as much as I like to think that overall I've been a pretty good groom, I realize I have my many faults and there are many things I wished I could have done better in the past and, of course, in the future. Yet I know I'm not the perfect groom and never was meant to be. Yet a wonderful thing happened to us, and it wasn't our earthly wedding in 1983, but the other wedding we experienced in June of 1991 when a spiritual matrimony of sorts took place when we both accepted Jesus as our Lord and Savior. You see, up to then, I was a stumbling, bumbling husband, groom, if you will, trying to figure out this whole marriage thing and providing for my wife as good as I could. But then, it wasn't until I learned about this man named Jesus and how he came to earth to be my groom. Check it out in Matthew 9:15, where Jesus talks about the groom one day being taken away. Now, folks, I hate to tell you, he's not talking about us men being taken away. He's talking about him. And this event did happen some 2,000 years ago. You see, in the eyes of God, described in the Bible, Jesus is the groom to all who would believe. And thus, when we believe, all of us, male and female alike, become his bride. And it's a match made in heaven and a love man can never duplicate. It's the type of love we can expect from him as our new husband as described in Colossians 3:19. And it's also the love described in 1 Peter 3:7, where it says that husbands are to treat our wives with dignity and honor as the weaker vessel, to which we might admit, well, I'm not up to the task of doing just that, Tony. What do you think? I'm perfect? You see, as much as we long to be lovers of others, it's not possible without a clear understanding of how much this man loved us. The real good news in all of this is just as it is expected that the groom be the head of the household, it's not really possible, but it is possible when we make Jesus the head of our household. He's ultimately the perfect groom, and by us placing our faith and trust in him will not only provide us lasting joy and comfort while we are here during this brief stay on earth, but relieve us of much of the worries caused by it. So in essence, this whole Bible is one big wedding invitation to all who wish to attend. It's an invitation to stop putting your faith and trust in man and instead place your faith and trust and your eternal hope in the ultimate groom of all, the groom of Christ. And that, my friend, is a wedding invitation that you and I can certainly take to the bank. Amen? Well, how about you? Are you still married but have no game plan for the other when one of you passes away? Well, we can help. Or maybe you're recently widowed or realize that you have no game plan at all, or worse yet, you're married to an advisor who is not working in your best interest. Well, guess what? We can help there too. How about this? Maybe you've never been married. You're single, divorced, and not sure what to do with your money and the plans for your retirement. Well, of course, we can help there with too. Now, here's how we get started to see if we can help you. It's called the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, and it's real easy to get this set up. All you do is either log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and click on that Let's Get Started, or if you want to set up your free 10-minute fiduciary phone call with myself, all you got to do is call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program, but you remember between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free and make it a good one.